Hello guys, welcome to the channel. Bob here, and we're back with Everquest, and we're back with a completely different magician to the last one that I was playing. I'm sure I don't get anywhere in these games essentially because I keep trying so many different bloody classes and races and class and race combinations. But I kind of got a bit sort of I got a bit freaked out running around as a little gnome woman. Not quite sure why. It just didn't seem right. So I started a high elf mage. Let's have a look. There we go. High elf mage. He's currently level 11, so he's kind of, he's got up to about the same sort of level as the previous mage. And I'm in Steamfont Mountains, killing in this area here. Now, Steamfont Mountains is a brilliant area for leveling. I got my, what have we got here? Let's pull something over. I got this guy to level 4, I think, probably, sort of in and around the newbie zone. And I moved to Steamfont. I can't see the bloody thing, can I? Okay, what we got here? Let's have a go at this clockwork thing. Yeah, got him to sort of level 4. Then I moved over to Steamfont Mountains. I was at the Knoll camps. I'm sure you all know where they are. Was fighting there for a bit. At level 8, I moved around here, and essentially this area here took me from 8 to where I am at the moment. I'll probably take me to 12, maybe even beyond. Pretty easily. Yeah, it's a great. Steamfont's great for newbies, getting up to sort of level 12 or so, maybe a bit more. Yeah, and as I said, I started this new mage essentially because I was a bit freaked out really by, and I've actually done it. I've done it wrong here, but I'll let it go this time. Yeah, as I said, I got a bit freaked out by running around as a little gnome woman. Seemed a bit out of character really. So yeah, I re-rolled. And I'm sort of, what I'm doing at the moment, and what I should have done there is reclaimed my pet, and I'll do that on the next one. Because I'm sure, as you all know, pet classes were sort of, I don't like to use the word nerf. I don't know if nerf is quite the right word, but certainly they were changed not long after the game came out. Basically, the change meant that you had to do more than 50% damage to a mob to get full experience. If your pet does 50%, you only get half experience from the mob, which is a bit of a pain, really. But I think it stopped some people essentially just parking themselves and their pet somewhere and just leaving it and not doing anything. Every time parking it on a spawn and just and not doing anything at all because the mob was your pet was doing all the killing. That's what I should be doing, is reclaiming my pet there, and then essentially just blasting the mob out to get 100% experience. Yeah, because I reclaimed my pet, essentially because he's not there, the damage he's done to the mob doesn't count. So I get 100% experience because I'm sort of doing all the damage, if you like, that the mob's aware of anyway. Yeah, and it's sort of, that's just that's how mages particularly sort of ended up fighting, really. Sort of pulling a mob, getting to a point where the mob sort of runs away. Reclaiming your pet and just finishing it off to get 100% experience, because we know that sort of leveling in Everquest can be quite slow anyway. Certainly if you're only taking 50% experience per kill, it's going to be a bit of an issue. Because my pet, to be honest with you, could probably solo a lot of these mobs I'm fighting at the moment. I put a damage shield on him, sit down, and I can probably just let him go. To be honest, the mage pets are pretty tough, certainly at the moment anyway. But then, as I said, I don't want 50% experience from the kills. I want 100. So yeah, to just reclaim the pet as the mobs on low life nuke away, yeah, and you get all the experience. But yes, I'm playing the mage at the moment. I'm still playing my enchanter, who I'm kind of playing as a mage at the moment. It's difficult because my enchanter can now charm. I think I've done it a bit early actually, so the clockwork, yeah, I've done it a bit too early, so the clockwork's going to come over and give me a bit of a whack. Yeah, my enchanter can charm, but the problem is that I don't have a very high charisma. All these characters that you see, sort of all my first characters on Project 1999, so I don't have a huge amount of plat to sort of twink anyone with. And anyone who plays an enchanter knows it appears as though you do need a fair amount of charisma to make it work. I could give it a go, maybe I'll give it a go in another video to see how it works out. But I'm a bit still wary of charming at the moment because I don't want to I don't want to keep dying and lose experience. I understand that dying is all part of the experience, and that's going to happen quite a lot when I do start charming. But I'd like to sort of I like to have at least the best chance I've got possible of things working out. But yeah, so that's tough at the moment. But I'm enjoying the Enchanter. He's a lot more hands-on than the Mage. I mean, as you can see with the Mage, essentially I'm sort of summoning a pet. Pulling a mob, sending him in. The pet and the damage shield does most of the damage. I sit there medding really, essentially until the there we go. Lebecken. I love some of the names. Yeah, I mean I just essentially I'll pull this skeleton. I mean the skeleton undead don't actually run away, but it shouldn't be too much of a problem. Yeah, and I just sit there medding really until the mob's nearly dead. And then that's when I'll put a damage shield on him. There you go. And then sit down. Because there isn't really anything else for me to do. I want to conserve the mana as much as possible. So I'm not casting direct damage spells too much. I want 100% experience, but I'll get that by sort of reclaiming the pet towards the end. A bit harder on undead because as soon as I reclaim the pet, the skeleton will come steaming at me. But hopefully his life will be low enough that it's not too much of a problem. Today's video does have a topic, and that's guilds. And there's a couple of reasons why the topic's come up. One is that I've been reading through the Project 1999 forums. And also just from my own experiences really of playing in a big guild. Now I'm going to reclaim a pet. Skeleton's nearly dead, so I'll just blast him. I didn't need that. There we go. So I get 100% for the kill. Go back to medding. Yeah, today's episode is going to be about guilds. Now my first experience with an MMO guild was in Ultima Online. I met some guy, really nice guy. We became good friends. He was part of a guild in the UK, which was quite big at the time. I sort of joined the guild. Yeah, we played sort of Ultima Online quite a long time together in the same guild. Got to know lots of other people in the guild as well, and it was great. I mean, Ultima Online I think was probably the ultimate sort of, because of the PvP aspect, it was the ultimate guild MMO, I think. Some might say Everquest was, but we'll get to that in a minute. But yeah, I mean it's Ultima Online was great because of the PvP. I think what happened was it was myself and a few others quite interested in PvP, so we took part. At the time, you only had PvP servers. There weren't any of the non-PvP ones at the time when we were playing. Yeah, so you whenever you went out into the world, there was always the risk of PvP. Lots of people. I won't say kids. Some of them might have been. But there were lots of people who liked to sort of grief you and ruin your game and that kind of thing. But a few of us were into PvP, so we set up a little sort of, I think we called it a barony within inside the guild, because a lot of our guild mates didn't like PvP, so we set up our own little PvP barony. And what we did was, whenever any of our guild mates were getting hassle from PvPers or griefers, our little barony would go and sort it out, and it all worked really well. I think that the reason it worked so well is because Ultima Online wasn't a loot-driven game. I mean, you had loot, you had equipment and that kind of thing, but it wasn't really driven. The game wasn't really driven by loot. You didn't have, you generally didn't have equipment with loads of stats on and that kind of thing. So, yeah, it was more about your skill with the class, how you built the class, because to a certain extent you could build it how you want. You could have a spell casting warrior and that kind of thing. So that was also a big oh bloody hell, this clockwork's gonna rip my pet apart, I think, here. Yeah, so you had he's doing a lot of damage. Come on, Gigantic. I know you're only a light blue, but bloody hell. Yeah, so it was, for me, it was the ultimate guild game. Things like trade skills are quite important, sort of, making stuff, making armour and weapons, so everyone sort of got involved in that and whatnot, and we were all sort of one big happy family. Then Everquest came along, and we moved on to Everquest and we started playing. Yeah, and it's kind of where things started to go wrong, and I think it was purely down to the fact that Everquest was basically about loot. It was about gaining the best loot. The loot was difficult to get, so it wasn't as though you could be maybe as casual. Sort of right at the early days of the game, we had quite a lot of people sort of go flying off quite quickly. I'll just let the pet die there. Yeah, we had quite a lot of people went flying off in levels quite quickly. And it was quite difficult to level with people who were higher than you, so that's sort of starting to cause just sort of rifts in the guild. Wasn't too bad at first, I think, because from a point of view, everyone's sort of racing and trying to level up as quickly as they can. We did have people in the guild who were a bit more sort of hardcore, and they would go racing off. But it wasn't too bad at first. But I think the problems sort of began really when the guild started getting to a point where it was getting close to doing maybe some of the raids that were available in the game at the time, where the big loot came from. And that's really where the problem started. You had lots of sort of cliques formed within the guild, groups of 5 or 6 people who always grouped together. They wouldn't let anyone else in their group. We'd never had that before in Ultima. In Ultima Online, you didn't have groups. You just get 20 or 30 of you together, and off you went. And had a good laugh. But with sort of like the group size restriction, you had quite a lot of these groups forming factions who didn't want to group with people outside of the faction in the end, which is fair enough to a certain extent, I guess, because they become familiar with the play style of those people. But it didn't help the guild, of course. And then once the loot started flowing, that's where the real problems sort of began. I think we tried to adopt one of those kind of DKP systems at the time, one of those point systems. A lot of people didn't like it, obviously, because they didn't have time to, they didn't have as much time to raid. I wasn't a big raider, so that wasn't really a problem for me. But I was kind of in the middle. I can understand it from both aspects. The people who played the most wanted more from the game, and that's fair enough. They're putting the time in, and that should happen. But I could also see it from the other point of view, because the DKP system at the time sort of punished people who didn't play as much. It didn't have as many hours to sort of play the game, and they sort of felt a bit left out. They weren't upgrading their equipment. Then you got to a silly point where all the high level people, they started sort of farming equipment for alts and that kind of thing, and that equipment wasn't sort of filtering down to the lower level players, or the people who were sort of at raid level but weren't sort of quite able to put as much time in. And that sort of was really where the problems with the guild started. I think like a lot of guilds in EverQuest, you seem to sort of read about it all the time back in the day on lots of forums. Here we go, Gara. He's a bit more of a tough pet. I haven't been very efficient with the mana. Sorry guys, there's quite a lot of sitting going on at the moment, but we'll see some more combat shortly. Yeah, and our guild exploded essentially. I think from what I can remember, it kind of split into two, and we had two different factions. One faction didn't really like the other faction, vice versa. There was still some. The problem was you had people in one faction who were still quite friendly with people in the other faction, so there was kind of some crossing over. But there was quite a lot of bitterness between the two groups, and it was a shame really, because that was basically where it all started to go wrong, and it was all about equipment, personalities, and that kind of thing. It's a real shame. And unfortunately, that sort of carried over into other games. Since then, since EverQuest, sort of the guild moved to Dark Age of Camelot. Sort of pretty much every MMO that came out, Star Wars Galaxies, that kind of thing. The guild would go and play World of Warcraft. Was another one. But in pretty much every single game, you had these rifts that had developed, and they never really healed. And World of Warcraft was another one where there was a massive explosion. Everyone kind of started to play together again. I don't know why. We sort of think we'd have learnt our lesson by then. And there was another massive explosion, and the guild sort of split apart. But that was over loot and stuff. But that was also over sort of a trend had started. We'd started to notice. Oh, for God's sake! I'm sitting here chatting, and he's already killed a skeleton. But a trend started to develop where we would get some of the players in the group, the more hardcore ones, would sort of use the guild that we were all in as like a stepping stone. So they would come into the guild and play with their friends for a bit, and because they knew that at the beginning of the game their friends would be keen to play it, so they would level quickly. But when they got to the maximum level, level 50, I think it was at the time, they would essentially say, actually, well, stuff it, I'm going now. You've helped me level, you've given me equipment, you've done some trade skills for me. But I want to go and do some raiding now, and you're not good enough to raid, so I'm off. And I'm sure for some of them it was quite a genuine thing. I'm sure there was a situation where they wanted to do more than they were. So the guild that we were all in wasn't sort of really at that level, and maybe we're never going to be. And they wanted to do more, and that's fine. I can understand that. But it happened in quite a few games, and it was clear that there were people who were only sort of using the guild as a quick stepping stone to level 50. Then they would bugger off and join a raiding guild. And as I said, I didn't mind at first because I understood that people wanted to experience more of the game. And if the guild's not offering you that, then it's fair enough that you go. But it was clear that some of them were, taking advantage of the situation, I think, over a period of 3 or 4 games. And since World of Warcraft, I haven't played any games with the guild, and they've still got a forum. They don't really play games anymore. It's more of a forum where a few of the older sort of group members just go and sort of talk about games and the old days and that kind of thing. There isn't really a presence in any game anymore, which is a shame, But that's just how it works. I think Everquest was quite a catalyst for a lot of guilds going up in smoke, because it was that sort of game. You've got to be competitive. You've got to be serious. It's not a casual game, and if you're casual and you want to play it at the time, anyway. I can play it casually now with no problems. I sit here with my mage. If I'm out of mana, I'll just sort of alt tab out to a web page, listen to something, and then go again. I'm sort of quite happy doing that at the moment. But it was there's actually an earth elemental up there. What I might do is reclaim a pet and cast a new one. Give the old earth elemental a go. A lot of the mobs around here drop sort of semi-precious stones and stuff, so it's quite a good place for earning some platinum. If I get a dark blue pet, oh, for God's sake. There we go. I think at some point in the mage's life, unlike the other pet classes, I think the pet's always the same level. I think from level 20 or so, or level 24. But at the moment, it's sort of random. Oh, there we go. Got Zaran. He's a dark blue. I have to give him a magic dagger, summon dagger, because otherwise he can't hit the elementals. They require a magical weapon. There we go. Let's just med up for a little bit. Someone will probably come along and kill it now before I get anywhere near it. Yeah, but as I was saying, like Everquest, I think was a catalyst for a lot of guilds. A lot of guilds broke up from sort of from talking to people at the time. There was a lot of problems in guilds. And it's sort of gone on from there really. And as I said, I haven't sort of really gamed with any of those guild mates from way back when, since Warcraft first came out. And probably never will again. I'm just not interested in that kind of thing anymore. But yeah, it was a shame. But I think it sort of showed. EverQuest was certainly a game that put you into a bracket, a very firm bracket. I think as to what sort of player you were. And there was no sort of no moving away from that path. If you were a hardcore player, you had to play hardcore. You wanted the equipment. You wanted the fat loot, as they say. And that's how you played. You couldn't play any other way. And so that's sort of my sort of guilding experiences in MMOs, and particularly EverQuest. One of the reasons I sort of brought it up is that been reading through the Project 1999 servers, essentially really just to sort of get a bit of an idea of the game again. Just trying to what would you say? Just swatting up really, just trying to learn the game again, getting any tips and stuff. But I've come across quite a lot of where's that bloody earth elemental gone? Pain in the arse. I've come across quite a lot of sort of threads within the forum, where there's quite a lot of that stuff still going on, arguing over raiding and guilds and equipment and that kind of thing. And you'd kind of think that we'd have gotten past that by now. I'm not sure if these people who go on the forums and flame and argue are sort of old players from back in the day. But if they are, they must be quite old by now, relatively. I mean, I know that I'm 42, for example. You know, but the fact that these guys still feel they've got to go on a forum and rant and flame and all that sort of stuff, and still argue over, you know, a virtual sword or whatever is yeah, it's a strange one. I'd have thought that if we are all mostly sort of old players from back in the day, we'd have sort of would have moved on from that by now. But I guess not. You know, maybe if you maybe once you're hardcore, maybe that's it. You know, everything you do in life is that focused and that driven. You know, and you come back to Everquest after 10 sort of 15 years, and you still feel that way about it. You know, you can't. There's no getting away from the fact that you are just that way. That's your personality. Oh bloody hell, that was stupid, wasn't it? But I think arguing about it is a bit daft. Particularly at our ages, serves no purpose really. You know, I mean, some of us are probably like mid-30s, 40 years old, maybe, I don't know. But maybe they're not. Maybe these are new Everquest players who have been drawn to Project 1999, and and they've and that sort of happened. You know, that's happened. They're the new breed of sort of raiders and stuff who want the big fat loots. And that's just how it is. But it's interesting. It's interesting reading it and reading some of the threads, and they're all the same, as exactly the same as what you used to see back in the day. People complaining about, you know, raid targets and that kind of thing. You know, who's earned the right to go there, whether there should be more of a fair distribution, which I personally think there should be. Guilds getting slagged off and that kind of thing, and it's really weird. And I mean, you know, with greatest respect to everyone, I do find it bizarre that if a lot of the people involved in this kind of thing are EverQuest players from back in the day, you know, I mean, these, as I said, you know, some of these guys must be, you know, in their 30s probably by now, and you know, what are we doing? Still arguing about this kind of stuff? It's, you know, crazy really. But there you go. As I said, maybe if that's the way you are, that's the way you are. What am I doing at the moment? Yeah, I'm sort of. If you're not aware, all of my commentary is always live, so I'm actually playing the game while I'm talking. So sometimes I get a bit distracted with what I'm doing. Sometimes I just sit down and don't get up again. It's a bit of a pain in the arse as a magician trying to summon your highest level pet, because the percent, I think at the moment it could be a pet. The pet level could be any one of 3 different levels, and actually summoning the highest one seems to be. For God's sake, something the highest one seems to be quite a low percentage, which again is one of those things that does frustrate me. I know the game is classic and that's how it was, and that's fine. I've got no problem with that. But when I think back to some of the design decisions that Variant come up with, you know, and you've got a class here that's reliant on its pet. That's kind of all it has really, apart from some direct damage spells. And yet they're still making it very hard for the class to operate, you know, to its sort of fullest, well, to its most efficient. But yeah, so I'm enjoying it anyway. Anyway, this has been a video, of course, with a magician. Not much gameplay. I do apologise. What I'm going to do for you, let's just have another fight with that Earth Elemental there. I'll see if I can actually get a pet that's dark blue, so the Earth Elemental doesn't completely rip it apart in a few seconds. Gerobtic. Oh, Gerobtic, I thought you were the man. I thought you were the one. At the moment I'm using a water pet. I quite like the water pet. It seems a bit balanced between the earth and the fire. It's quite good. It's got quite good damage. It's got a bit of a direct damage spell that it casts. But it's also got quite a few hit points. It's quite a good tank. So I'm kind of using that with a fire shield rather than the fire pet. But I suppose Canoptic. Ah, Canoptic. I thought you were the one. But no. So there you go. It's quite expensive on the old Malachite. But yeah, I'm sort of. I guess this is a life of a mage in some regards. Just trying to find a pet that's the highest level. Oh, Gaban. No, you've got to go. Sorry, fella. I know, but what can I do? You're just not up to the task. I really like the mage because I love the pets. And there's a there we go, of a beacon. He's the one. I like the pets. I love the pets. I think they're great. They're really cute. Got loads of personality, and that's what I like about the class. I think I probably mentioned before. I'm not sure if the class has got enough to sort of keep you going or keep me going long term. I think it's quite one-dimensional. But the pets do seem to add a bit of flavour. The Earth Elemental's obviously a tank, so I think he, for certain situations, he casts a root as well. So I think for certain situations he'll probably be quite useful. I think the air elemental is a good rogue, so when you're in groups for DPS, he'll probably be quite useful. The fire pet and I think the water pet here are probably quite good for soloing. I think they could have done more with the pets maybe. I think the earth elemental and root's fine. I think the air element does the air pet stun, which is quite good. It gives you an option. Oi, sorry, I'm just shouting at my cats here having a fight. But I think the water pet maybe they could have done something with. Maybe they could have given the class a bit more utility. Maybe it could have mezzed or something. Sort of randomly, just nothing powerful, but that kind of thing. The fire pet's got his damage shields. That's quite good. But yeah, that's the problem with a mage. It's not incredibly versatile. You got your pets, you got your direct damage, and that's kind of it. But yeah, I guess it depends on if the pets are enough to keep you going. I mean, I think they might be for me. I do enjoy them, but I'll have to see how I go. But anyway, that was me just fighting Earth Elemental. And because I was talking, I was completely behind the times. I should have reclaimed my pet by now. So now I'm chasing after an Earth Elemental that's running away. Oh, there we go. He's dead. Okay. Anyway, guys, that's it. I hope you enjoyed my waffle about guilds and just my experiences of a guild. Not some good, but some bad. Yeah, and I'll be back again in the future with another video. Thanks for watching.